Imagine sitting down to dinner, your stomach rumbling, your senses drawn to the sizzling aroma of roasted meat, only to be told that taking a single bite could be considered an act of defiance against your faith. A moment of indulgence turned into a spiritual dilemma. Sounds extreme? Not in the world we're about to explore. For centuries, what you ate on certain days wasn't just a question of taste or tradition, it was a statement of obedience, of devotion, of moral discipline. The divide between meat and fish became more than just dietary, it was divine. Entire communities, empires, and cultures oriented their weekly rhythms around this distinction. But how did we get here? Why did millions across history turn their backs on meat every Friday? And how did fish, once seen as a modest, even peasant's fare, climb the sacred ladder to become a holy staple on the plates of kings, commoners, and clergy alike? This isn't just a story about food. It's a tale of faith, of power, of tradition, and transformation. This is how a single religious rule rippled through centuries, shaping diets, economies, and cultures. This is the story of how the Catholic ban on meat gave rise to Fish Fridays. Hey there, food lovers, history buffs, and all you curious chefs out there. Welcome back to the channel, your go-to place for exploring the rich, intriguing stories that lie behind every bite we take. Whether you're here because you love uncovering the past, you're passionate about food culture, or you're simply fascinated by how history shapes our everyday habits, you're in the right place. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating journey back in time to explore a chapter that blends faith, tradition, and even economics into the very meals we share. We're diving deep into the Catholic Church's historic ban on meat. A rule that might seem strange or even restrictive from a modern perspective, but which once shaped the lives and diets of millions of people across the world. More importantly, we'll unravel how this seemingly simple religious practice gave rise to an entire cultural phenomenon, the rise of Fish Fridays. A tradition so powerful it still influences menus, customs, and even fast food menus centuries later. Now, whether you've grown up eating fish on Fridays without ever really thinking about why, or you've only just begun to wonder where this custom came from, you're about to discover a story that's so much more than just a meal. It's a tale woven with threads of religion, political power struggles, social change, and yes, even fast food innovation. So buckle up as we cast our nets wide into history and catch the full story behind this enduring tradition. Let's rewind the clock. Way back to the earliest days of Christianity, when the foundations of many religious traditions were being laid. In those times, fasting and abstinence weren't just about diet, they were deeply spiritual acts. They represented sacrifice, humility, and penance, ways for believers to purify their souls, strengthen their faith, and draw closer to God. Eating less, or avoiding certain foods, was seen as a form of self-discipline, a way to atone for sins and practice control over earthly desires. These practices were woven into the very fabric of early Christian life, marking moments of reflection and reverence. As Christianity grew and spread through the Roman Empire and beyond, these spiritual habits began to take on more formal shapes. By the Middle Ages, roughly between the 5th and 15th centuries, the Catholic Church had not only embraced these fasting traditions but had codified them into specific rules. It wasn't just personal choice anymore, it became institutional doctrine. Fridays, in particular, were set aside as days of remembrance, days to honor and reflect upon the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, the moment of ultimate sacrifice in Christian belief. Because this day symbolized suffering and atonement, it was marked by solemnity and abstinence. One key rule was clear: on Fridays, the faithful were expected to abstain from eating meat. But why meat? In medieval society, meat was more than just food, it was a luxury, a sign of wealth, celebration, and indulgence. To give it up was to give up a worldly pleasure, a meaningful sacrifice to honor the sacred. This practice wasn't just about religion, it shaped how communities lived, ate, and interacted. The simple act of skipping meat on Fridays became a powerful symbol of faith and devotion, a tradition that would endure for centuries. But here's where the story takes an intriguing turn. While the ban on meat was strict and widely enforced, the Church drew a very clear line between warm-blooded animals and cold-blooded ones. Meat from animals like cows, pigs, sheep, and chickens was strictly off-limits on Fridays and other designated days of fasting. However, Creatures that didn't fit this category, specifically fish and other seafood, were considered acceptable. Why this distinction? It may seem odd to us now, but it was rooted in medieval understanding of the natural world, combined with religious symbolism. Fish, being cold-blooded and living in water, occupied a different place in the church's moral and dietary hierarchy. This seemingly small loophole suddenly elevated fish from humble fare to a sacred substitute for meat. Rivers, lakes, and coastlines across Europe and beyond transformed overnight into vital sources of sustenance and spiritual compliance. Fishing communities thrived, and fishermen became the providers of a holy commodity. What was once just a simple meal for many now carried religious significance. Eating fish was more than nourishment, it was an act of penitence, a tangible way to honor one's faith. Fish on Fridays wasn't just a culinary choice, it was salvation on a plate. For countless believers, it was a meaningful sacrifice balanced by a practical alternative. And for medieval fishermen and merchants, business was booming. Entire economies grew around the demand for fish, and coastal towns flourished thanks to this sacred dietary rule. This rule didn't just shape eating habits, it reshaped entire communities and markets, weaving faith into the very fabric of daily life. Fast forward several centuries to the Renaissance and the eras that followed, a time of remarkable cultural, economic, and social change. By now, Fish Fridays had evolved far beyond their original religious meaning. Monarchs, merchants, and entrepreneurs had caught on to the economic power hidden within these sacred dietary rules. The demand for fish wasn't just a matter of piety, it became a driving force behind booming fishing industries and bustling coastal economies. Ports and fishing villages swelled with activity, as fleets of boats ventured out to meet the ever-growing appetite for fish on Fridays and during Lent. Fish markets became thriving centers of commerce, with fishermen and traders playing a crucial role in sustaining communities. And the legacy of this tradition didn't stop there. Even today, centuries later, we can see echoes of this ancient practice in the most unexpected places. Take, for example, the iconic Filet-O-Fish sandwich from McDonald's. You might not guess it, but this fast food classic was actually invented in the early 1960s to cater specifically to Catholic customers who couldn't eat meat on Fridays during Lent. This simple menu innovation helped a fast food giant respect religious traditions while tapping into a lucrative market, and it's a perfect example of how the Catholic ban on meat continues to influence our food choices and industry practices. From the grandeur of the Vatican's centuries-old edicts to the bright lights of your local fast food joint, the story of the meat ban has sculpted global eating habits in profound and lasting ways. What started as a spiritual act of sacrifice grew into a cultural and economic phenomenon, weaving its influence through history and into our modern plates. So next time you bite into a crispy fish sandwich or hear someone mention Fish Friday, remember, it's more than just a meal. It's a tradition steeped in faith, history, and the incredible power of food to connect us across time. So, what do you think about this fascinating tradition? Have you ever personally observed Fish Fridays, maybe as part of your family's customs or cultural background? Or is this story completely new to you, opening up a fresh perspective on why fish shows up on plates every Friday in so many places around the world? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Drop a comment down below and let's get a conversation going about how faith, food, and culture come together in your life or community. Maybe you have a special Fish Friday recipe or a unique tradition that's been passed down through generations. Share it with us. And hey, if you're enjoying this journey through culinary history as much as I am, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps keep the story alive and lets me know to keep diving into these deliciously rich food histories. Let's keep the history cooking, one bite, one story at a time. So next time you spot a fish fillet on a Friday menu, whether it's at your favorite restaurant, a family dinner, or even that fast food spot, take a moment to appreciate what's really on your plate. It's never just seafood. It's a story, a rich tapestry woven with threads of sacrifice, survival, and sacred tradition. This simple choice reflects centuries of belief, devotion, and human ingenuity. It's living proof that what we eat is never just about satisfying hunger. Food carries meaning, it's a reflection of who we are, where we've come from, and the values we hold dear. Thank you so much for joining us on this flavorful journey through time, where history, culture, and faith come together on your plate. If you're hungry for more stories that bring food history to life, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss an episode filled with fascinating tales from the world of food, past and present. Until we meet again, keep exploring, keep questioning, and above all, keep tasting the past. Because every meal has a story waiting to be discovered.